We're still going through Prostitution Week, and today we're going to talk about porn. So, pretty much, everyone knows porn is videos or images or whatever about people having sex, being naked, having sex, that kind of stuff. And so, that falls into the category of sex work, and sex work is prostitution. When you do sex stuff for money, you are a prostitute. So, hey, Prostitution Week, right? All right, so, um, first off, I'm gonna say that how people have this idea that somehow when you film it on camera, having sex for money is legitimate. That it's completely different than prostitution because, hey, it's on camera. It's a ridiculous argument. But the fundamental piece of what prostitution is, which is selling your body for money, it hasn't changed. And earlier in the week, we talked about how selling your body for money, well, that sounds a lot like working a job. Because, you work at McDonald's flipping burgers, you're spending time and money time and effort from your body for money. And so prostitution is just same thing, just cranked up to 11, because you're giving absolutely everything. You're giving your entire body for it. Well, porn's the same thing. At least it's the same thing for the performer. But porn has a very interesting attribute to it, which is you have a performer and another performer, and so they're both prostitutes. That whenever you watch a porn, there are two prostitutes having sex, and that's what you're watching. You're watching two prostitutes have sex, and you're paying for it. Whether you actually bust out your credit card or it's just ad revenue, right? In any case, that's what porn is on the internet. Is you paying two prostitutes to have sex in front of you. Which is very weird. But what it also does is it changes the entire game. Because there's healthy sex where you get to know the other person, you develop a relationship and a commitment to each other, and then you have sex, and that is a outflowing of all the love and bond that you've grown with each other. That's awesome. And then you have this toxic kind of sex, which is, oh, that other person is just a commodity, right? Where with prostitution, you just buy it from them and they just sell it to you, and that's all there is. But now it's something even different, where it's not even that you can just buy someone's body, but sex as a thing is just not even necessarily needs to be your experience, right? That's what porn is you pretending you're having sex. Someone's actually having sex, and you watch it and you pretend. And so now, as the viewer, you are removing yourself from the act of sex. And when you do that, you get unsure about yourself. It lowers your self-esteem. You start to second guess your partners. And the reason is because every single time that you have actual sex with an actual partner that has that potential to be a good, healthy relationship, you're thinking about porn. You're thinking about all the times where it was fake. And here's the messed up thing. You are comparing the fake thing to the real thing. And then whenever you have real sex and you compare it to you watching and pretending to have sex, you are cheapening yourself. Because it's easy to see that the prostitute cheapens themselves and the porn star cheapens themselves, that they sell their sex for money, right? That's easy to see. It's easy to see how that is bad for them, that they become a commodity. But when you participate in porn by watching it, you put yourself in the shoes of the porn star having sex with that woman, right? And so you put yourself in the shoes of a prostitute. And that is what's so weird about porn, is because when you go to a prostitute, you are a consumer. You are paying for the sex. But when you're in porn, you're not actually paying for sex. You're paying for the idea, the image in your head that you could be that porn star. That you could be in that situation. And he's getting paid. And so you end up turning yourself, your own body, into a commodity because you are imagining yourself as a prostitute. Because that's what porn stars are. They're prostitutes, right? Do sex, get money. That's prostitution. And you're imagining you're that. And when you imagine you're that, and you look at your body, and it doesn't match up with what you see on the screen, well, then you say, well, I am a commodity. I am something that can be priced. And that price is very low. And that's why people get depressed when they watch porn. Is because they're commodifying themselves, because they're putting themselves in the shoes of a prostitute, and prostitutes are selling their bodies. The only difference is the reason you're not selling your body, the only reason you're not in that situation is because maybe you're not worth that much. That's the idea that goes in your head. When in reality, the reason you don't do that is because that's a terrible idea. It's a terrible thing to do. Of course you don't do that. What kind of loser sells their body for money? Well, practically everyone with a job. Everyone does it. To one degree or another. They sell themselves out. They sell themselves short. This is just another way you do it. And that's why people get lonely. It's because they have turned themselves, their own body, their own sexuality into a commodity, and no one wants it. And so they feel constantly rejected, constantly belittled. They feel worthless because they are a commodity that no one wants. And that's hard. And that's how I felt when I watched. I haven't watched in years, but it still affects me to this day. It's the classic addict thing where you like, oh, I can stop at any time. I can stop anytime I want, right? But you can't. Even if you have the willpower to not turn on the video, to not look, it's in your head. And you can't escape that. You have to change the way you think, and that takes a long time. And so if you haven't watched porn yet, which, honestly, congratulations, like you're top 1% of people out there. I think almost everyone's watched it at this point. It's just too available, too free. But if you haven't watched porn yet, don't. Because it never comes out. It never leaves your head. It ruins you forever. At least, it is so difficult to fix yourself, it's best not to ruin yourself in the first place. But for all of those who have watched, who are like me and have suffered through that, and even those unlike me who have not been able to stop, think about what I'm saying here and if that applies to you. Do you find yourself valuing yourself, your own body, your sexual company as a commodity? Where you're obsessed with the idea of like, oh, maybe I'm not big enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not interesting enough in the bedroom. And this applies to both men and women, right? That when you think of yourself as a sexual commodity and no one wants you, well, maybe you just don't have a good enough product, right? But sex is not a product. Sex is a gift you give someone. And you do that because you love them. And you trust them. And they feel that way for you too. And so the reason your sex is not being valued is because either they're in this same complex of like, maybe they don't value me and they're afraid. And they're not fully engaging because they're afraid. Or you're having sex with the wrong people. You're having sex with people who you just met, right? Having sex with people that don't care about you, might not even know your name. How could they care about you? You're not even giving them a chance to care about you. Because you just jump into sex first thing. And so, if you want to value yourself as a person, and be valued as a person, then you have to treat yourself like a person and not a product. And that's what's so weird about porn, is we think we're objectifying the person on the screen, but really we're objectifying ourselves. Because what we're saying is, I wish I was the object. I wish I was on that screen. And that's the worst thing about porn, is you sell yourself for negative money. That is how cheap you are. You are willing to watch an ad. You are willing to even put some money down to have negative sex, to sell your body at a loss. That's what you're doing when you watch porn. Because you're not having real sex, but you're putting yourself in that situation where you're imagining, oh, I'm in there, I'm doing this, I'm having that scenario. And you put yourself in there. But you're just being objectified, the same as they are. And that feels really bad. It feels bad to be objectified. And that's why everyone says, oh, look at the person on the screen as a real person. They're not an object. But no one ever says, look at yourself as a real person. You are not an object. Because you're being objectified too. You're just not getting paid for it. Yeah. And so, if you want to care about yourself, you want to grow as a person, you got to treat yourself like a person. And that starts when you stop cutting yourself. The bleeding stops after you heal. And the only way to heal is to stop injuring yourself. So stop watching porn. I bet it'll be hard. I know it's taken me years. But you gotta stop now. So that way you can treat yourself as a person. So that way you can treat other people as people. So that way one day you can actually have sex. And have it not be this contest, commodity thing. And instead be a gift of actual passion, actual love. Because that's the good stuff. Otherwise, it's just anger and resentment and abuse and being used up, feeling used. And I know I don't have really any experience sleeping around because I really didn't do that. But I know enough people who did. And I've yet to find a person where it worked out for them. So everyone knows sleeping around is bad. It's bad for the guy, it's bad for the girl, it's bad for everyone involved. So why are you doing it? Because you want to be validated. That maybe your body is worth something. Maybe you can sell yourself for someone else's body. Oh, do a quick trade, right? Then you can be validated. Then you can feel like, oh, I'm a real person. But you're not a real person if you're just selling yourself. You're treating yourself as a product. And that's not good. Treat yourself as a person. Build an actual, real-life relationship with a real person. And then when you love each other and care about each other, the sex will come naturally.